territory and the homeland of the Métis. We pay our respect to our First Nations and Métis ancestors of the place and reconfirm our relationship with one another. We'll move through the agenda. Changes to the agenda, additions.
Go ahead.
Your worship, we'd like to pull the Woodlands and Waterway out of the in-camera and deal with it on the agenda itself.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Also, 6.4 we will not have to deal with tonight. We defer to next meeting. Any other changes? No. Motion to
I'll move to adopt the agenda as amended.
Councillor Bashar, seconder.
I'll second that.
Councillor Rowe, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Okay, we move to minutes of the April 25th meeting. Are there any errors, omissions? No?
I'll move to accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor of the motion? Any business? Motion carried. Any business arising? No, not. Move to, I think we'll wait till we get a full council before we deal with council. I think Jordan's gonna be here. Matt's online. Maybe we can Jordan gets here before we deal with 5.1. Move to business. We have only financial reports.
I'll move that council approve the following financial reports: the budgetary control, list of accounts, and check reconciliation.
I'll second.
By Councillor Bashar, seconded by Councillor Lettery. Call the question. All those in favor? Okay, motion is carried. Move to 6.2, the building and development permit report.
I move to accept the bylaw building and development permit report for information purposes as presented.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Hunt, seconder. Any discussion, questions? Not. Call the question. All those in favor? Okay. Motion carried. Move to 6.3, mixed use development for 1220 Poirier Street. I think there's a lot of information provided. Do you want to add anything to it or make any comments about it?
I'll just keep it very brief, Your Worship. This is a development permit application for a discretionary use related to a mixed-use development on the property at 1220 Poirier. A garden center use was established in 2020 with the use of 2 greenhouses, and now the applicants are seeking approval to establish a retail store to be utilized in conjunction with the garden center use as part of a recently constructed building for which a building permit had been issued for residential accessory use. Given there are existing residential and contractor services uses being undertaken on the property, this constitutes a mixed use, and hence the discretionary nature of the development permit application. Approval of this application would legitimize the garden center use and allow it to expand in the context of the existing uses which have been established. The applicants also own the adjacent parcel to the west, which was purchased from the town and is parcel tied with the property adjacent to Poirier Street. This property is being utilized for a number of contractor services, which the town has clarified with the applicants, and the development officer can issue a development permit for it to recognize these uses without need for council approval. Administration is recommending that the council direct it to proceed with the public consultation process, after which it will prepare a report for council's consideration of the development permit.
I move to initiate the discretionary use process as it aligns with the current zoning bylaws for mixed-use developments.
I'll second.
Councillor Vedri, second. Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Move to 6.5. We have a request for decision on food vendor Shelly Diaz.
Thank you, Worship. This is a development permit application for temporary use to allow a food vendor in the form of a food truck to operate in Patterson Park from May 15th to September 15th of this year. The applicant has met with myself and the manager of community services And it was determined siting the food truck at either of the two parking lots in the park would be suitable locations for that time frame. The food vendor would operate from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Wednesday to Sunday, with exceptions for special events in the park only. Administration is recommending approval of the development permit, which would be subject to health inspection. Everything else is in order.
I'll move to proceed with option A, to direct administration to issue a development permit for temporary use.
I'll second that.
A mover and a seconder, any discussion? Call the question, those in favor? Okay, motion's carried. Okay, we move to 6.6 is the applications that we received. That's the first of several here. For Ellis Robertson Public Library, any comments you wanna make on that?
Well, this is the first of four grant applications that we're bringing forward today. Council has $18,500 left to spend from this grant program out of a total of $42,000 for this year. This application is asking for $1,000 to support the summer reading program. We did note that this is an annual summer reading program, and so we recommend that this gets built into their operating budget year to year rather than requesting a grant. However, it hasn't been this year, and so they're asking for $1,000 for that program.
I'll move that council approve a grant to Alex Robertson Library in an amount of $1,000 for the purpose of conducting the 2023 summer reading program.
I second it.
Commissioner, Councilor Hunt, any discussion around this?
Well, is it, not that I'm not in support of these requests, but do we want to discuss each one in order and vote in order, or do we want to discuss them as a group in relation to
Well,
the...
I think we should go through them one by one as presented, right?
They have not been presented to council this way before.
Mhm.
We've chosen to present them as individual applications and their own individual decision to really look closely at each individual ask on its own,
Mhm.
and as well to avoid conflict. So if there was any conflict with any one of the grant applications, then we're dealing with them one at a time rather than a group of four
That's
making one
fair.
choice.
Yeah, okay.
And I think we've been provided all the information, we kinda know where the total's gonna end up, and it's just a matter of where we feel that comfort zone is gonna be in terms of what's gonna be left at the end of today. So, do we have a motion, seconder, all those in favor of approval? Okay, motion's carried. Okay, we'll move to the second one, which is the Laurence Children's Festival.
So the Laurence Children's Festival has applied for support for the festival to take place on July 1st, as well as a temporary road closure, which would happen after the parade that the town is anticipated to put on. At this point, council has $17,500 for remaining funds to approve this. They've asked for $5,000 to support their event.
I think we'll deal with that in two motions. We'll deal with approval of the grant, and then we'll deal with the road closure as a separate item, I think.
Administration, we have, under the bylaw, we have the authority to do the temporary road closure as well, so we don't require a motion today for that.
So we don't need a separate motion? Okay. Okay, what's the feeling of council on this application? Well, certainly I'm in support of, making sure that we have a children's festival, and I'm glad to see that it's brought back with Canada Day, because I think that makes that particular day more meaningful in the community, get the kids out and participating. But I'm just one voice here.
Yeah.
With the Children's Festival, have they reached out to the other community, like the other communities like Air Orange and the band? Because it is an event that all communities do take part in.
Good one. That's good.
No, they haven't supplied that information.
I will abstain from the discussion and voting as I'm connected to this group, but I will remain in the room.
Point of order, Chair, if the council wishes to declare conflict, they would have to leave and not vote, otherwise they're under your procedure bylaw there to vote.
Okay, so I'll excuse myself for this decision.
Sure.
Alright, let me know when you're done.
We, wait. We did indicate in the report as well that, last year the town did purchase the Laurence Children's Festival bouncy castles. And part of that purchase, there was an agreement that we would, deliver and set up the bouncy castles, so there's no separate in-kind request for that specifically. That is something separate, that every time there is a children's festival, the town has agreed to do the transport and set up for those. So at this point, they're just asking for, monetary or financial support.
Do we have, like, I don't see in our, packages, their draft budgets or what they're allocating the monies to?
So it's really entertainment for this, and there is an attachment there that highlights the different types of entertainments and the amounts that they would be spending towards those. The total for all those acts is slightly larger than what they're asking for specifically from the town of Laurence.
I'll move to grant the Laurence Children's Festival $5,000 for the purposes of the 2023 festival.
I'll second that motion.
Moved by Councilor Bashir, second by Councilor Hunt. Any question? All those in favor? I'm not sure. That's still on there or not?
He's having some technical difficulties right now, so we can work with him.
Okay, motion is carried. The next application is from Men of the North.
So this is the third of four applications that we received for this evening that we're presenting. We have a remainder of $12,500 through this grant program. This one was received by Men of the North. They're requesting $5,000 in support of their summer youth mentoring program. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have questions about the program specifically.
I'm just kind of wondering again, did they approach the other community partners in this?
So I'm just looking at their attachment here.
What would they be using that money for?
It's in your Monday.com.
Typically
but
they
it's
use
a little
it
hard to get
for
to.
canoe trips for all the participants, or a trip of some sort is what they've done in previous years, but I don't know what their intent is
I
this year.
mean, they've asked for just general support of the program and
Okay.
not to $5,000 and haven't indicated specifically what that $5,000 would be for, but it is a youth mentoring program where they do cut lawns here in Orange as well as other communities. And at the end, you know, the youth do get some work experience and team building experience, and then they do go on a canoe trip at the end of the summer with the funds that they get through this program.
So is this the second or third year? If we take.
This is the second year that we've been asked to support.
Second year?
Yes, last year they were approved for $5,000 for in-kind support, in which the town coordinated $3,000 of in-kind support with Men of the North. This year they're not asking for in-kind support and just financial.
And they filed all the reports last year and everything's good. Okay.
And like I'm looking here at their budget, which is about $5,000 for honorariums for mentors, almost $19,000 for equipment and supplies, $8,800 for meals, Powerade and protein bars, charter buses, Prospector tents, program incentive, but
Do we know how many youth are targeted to participate in this?
No, I don't know exactly
Okay.
how many they're targeting for this year. The total project cost they're anticipating is just over $56,000.
In previous years,
Mhm.
because it's voluntary for the kids, so they'll take as many kids as they can, right? So
Mhm.
it's, and it ranges anywhere from what I've seen, 12 years up to 18 years old.
mm-hmm. I do have some reservations as to the applicability to our community grant program. Just with the sustained funding model of their organization, they have quite a few channels that that I'm aware they go through for funding, and since it is such a large project and it's not community specific necessarily, and it's a very small group that is targeted, it's not that I don't find it valuable. I think it just maybe doesn't quite fit with the intent of our grant policy.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that, and there's a note in our report there, just that, again, the grant program isn't meant to be necessarily an operating subsidy. If you gave out an operating grant to every organization in town, you wouldn't be able to give them very much. But, so again, similar to the summer reading program, if it's an annual event and it's a core part of their program, if they're running a fundraising event or a special event, or maybe they're adding a new component or as a trial thing, or they need startup equipment and then they're going to self-sustain or something like that, I see that those would all be good fits. But yeah, so you don't want all the sporting groups and all the charitable groups in town who want giving you a request just to subsidize their operation. That will be a challenge. So it's something to consider, and it could be feedback that we pass along for future budgeting.
They do a good job of going to, the yards they take care of are elders within the communities, people that don't have the ability to keep their yards not clean, so the intent is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if we look at the program overview, it's their 4th year.
Mm-hmm.
Challenge for Youth and Mentors, complete 75 yards across 5 communities with the help of up to 30 male youth and up to 11 adult male mentors. It's sort of their target for this,
Mm-hmm.
based on the documents they've supplied.
I know they have a group in PA and Saskatoon as well. They're part of the challenge, right?
I would be in favor of approving this in a partial amount, not the full 5,000, just because it does target a wider scope in terms of other communities, right? So
I'm hesitant to even, like, when it comes to the fit with this, perhaps a very small amount in the relation of things, but just again being very careful that if we provide it's I think I would be interested in the municipality supporting Men of the North in other ways outside of this. If there are innovative ideas that we can support this group in their operations, because the intent, the vision, and the people that this group touches it's all valuable. But I think just within this context, I don't know, I'm not comfortable with it being the right fit, and considering that it's only May and we have $18,000, no, we have
less than that now.
$12,500 left, and potentially new community groups, new events, new other things that may need a bit more of a leg up. I think I'd be wanting to reserve a little bit.
Yeah. For Lac La Ronde, it does only target 15 participants, right? If you look at the doc, and I think it's a great initiative, but I don't feel that, like, if we look at the dollar value, 5,000 divided by 15, right, we're supporting, if you look at it that way, it's
Mhm.
not, the value isn't there, right?
Let's give them a couple of grand.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Is that too much, Abby, or what?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable like giving them anything through this particular channel.
So this is
I think it would be an interesting conversation to have outside of this policy and this municipal program in the way that we grant money. I think it's just we have this specifically to respond to those things that we can't necessarily put into a box of yes, this is a municipal expenditure or this is something we do like a function of the municipality. It's one of those things where we want to support the community and we get requests for money, and this is kind of that pot of money to provide little bits of support where we can throughout the tri-community.
Yeah, this request, if I'm reading it correctly, top of page 4, honorariums for mentor, 11 mentors per week times 6 weeks at $75, $450 per mentor over the course of 5 weeks, recording hours per week, guidance, support, deliverables, and advice to individuals who are seeking to learn or develop specific skills. Total $49.50. So basically, is this request for the wages for the mentors?
Well, it's not. I don't think it's specific. I think
I'm just looking at page 4.
it's well, and that's the
Yeah.
thing is it does have a handy little number that if we were to say we're giving you this specific amount, it covers honorariums. And is that what we're looking to do with this money, or you know? Or do we want to send a couple of kids to Jasper, or you know, pay for charter buses, or maintain this group's equipment? Like that's from that they've already established these things and they have their processes in place, and it's just I think there's other ways to explore the support of this group.
I'd be more in favor of maybe reducing the smaller amount as opposed to not giving anything. In a sense that it sends a message out that at least we're supporting it in some way. It's an important
No,
program. in our
but it's
community.
not appropriate to this particular policy and program that we have running. Why do we have to do it through this? Why not bring this to an agenda in a little while and maybe come up with something else creative?
Anyway, that's my position,
When-
but, you know.
Yeah, I would like to see this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Vedder?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that council approve a grant to Men of the North in the amount of $2,000 for the purpose of conducting a 2023 summer youth mentoring program.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
I'll just say again, I don't
Call the
think it's
question.
appropriate.
All those in favor? Okay, motion's carried.
What about, do we have people on Zoom?
No.
No?
Can't get them.
Motion's carried. Okay, next one is the Arts Council.
So this is the final grant application that we're presenting today, from the L'Orange Arts Council to put on a mural program with a local artist, with both elementary and high school students, with the goal to have students working with the artist and at the end having a new mural in the library. They're requesting a total of $5,000 for this project, to be finished by December.
Do we know what students, like from where, or age groups, where's the mural going to be, that sort of thing, or
It's gonna be in the library, so.
in the library?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Was there?
Documents? I'm looking for the
Yeah.
documents.
This one,
Just says supporting documents.
yeah, this one didn't have supporting documents. The documents or supporting resources that they've showed us here are some links to the artist's artwork online, and as well as a brief breakdown of how much it would cost for the instructor, total of $8,040, and for supplies at the cost of $1960, adding up for a total program cost of $10,000.
How much do we have left in our grant?
$10,500.
and they're requesting 5. This one again, I would be in favor of a partial funding model, because I don't believe that it's going to target a large amount of youth or artists.
I think it's gonna leave a lasting impact by being a visible mural in public. I think that has a lot of value for not necessarily just the people that participate. There's gonna be that impact. There's also gonna be the impact that we create a giant mural in our community that's created by community members and budding artists under the direction of a pretty well-known local artist. So I'll move that council approve a grant to the Arts Council in the amount of $5,000 for the purpose of facilitating a program for elementary and high school students to create a mural.
I'll second it.
Motion second, or any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we'll move to 5.10, the flower planters. Yeah. Proposal, a request for a decision on purchasing 50 barrels.
I'll move that council approve, option 8, to approve the purchase of 50 flower planters and associated planting materials for $11,500 using funding from the 2023 capital budget for downtown revitalization.
I'll second that.
So is that something that is gonna fit in with the scheme of things in terms of what the design is of the downtown revitalization? Is that?
Yes.
Okay, that's my, I thought it would, I just
Yeah, and one of the benefits from going with any of the options that we presented of planters would be that they're reusable year to year. And so there would be additional operating costs associated with that, just under $4,000 annually to keep these planted every year. But it would be a long-term investment to purchase these planters for something that we can put out every spring.
Okay, motion on the floor. All those in favor of the motion?
Right.
Motion carried. So much for the planters.
I'm just not sure what item we're on, so.
6.10.
6.10, okay.
We waited to do 5.
We were at
One.
6.10 now. Now we're at 6.11. Okay, we have the ACAP lighting rehabilitation engineering services contract. I guess that's part of the airport project that was approved, and this is just the engineering portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all totally funded by ACAP. And so I guess we probably should have a motion to accept their money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, ACAP being the airport's capital assistance program, I move to enter into engineering services contract with Gibbings Consulting as it is part of the proposed budget allocation associated with engineering and project management services.
Okay, second of the motion.
I'll second.
Councilor Vedri. Call the question. Those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, we'll go on to. Okay, 6.12, the housing study. We have a request for decision on the business plan proposal. I think I'll turn it over to Jeff to just expand on that a little bit. I think he's done a bit of work to try and move that initiative forward, so we just, I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So administration has been investigating means to initiate housing development in the town. It has recently attended an online meeting with Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation staff to learn about the details associated with the New Housing Accelerator Fund program. And also spoke with staff at Saskatchewan Housing Corporation to learn about opportunities through that organization. So it's become really apparent that in order to access funding of any kind, having a housing needs assessment prepared for the town really is a must. A housing needs assessment is also a useful tool to provide to private developers and builders who are seeking concrete information about the local housing situation. It can also be used by nonprofit groups who may be interested in undertaking a housing project. So as such, staff sought to obtain a proposal to conduct this work from a reputable consulting firm that assisted the town with the Highway 102 Economic Corridor Master Plan, namely Wallace Insights, Inc. After discussing the town's needs at length with the folks from Wallace, it was determined that the housing needs assessment best take the form of a needs assessment in combination with an actual business plan. So how do we jumpstart some of these housing initiatives? Never mind just having figures that tell us what we already know in terms of housing needs. This will break it down into more detail in terms of housing forms, as well as provide direction to how we can best do that, achieve that through some of these programs and what have you that are available out there. So Wallace Insight proposes to undertake this work for $11,000, which will include preparation of a grant application to Saskatchewan Housing Corporation to obtain funding to help cover most, if not all, of the costs associated with this exercise. In its discussion with SHE staff, administration was advised that the town of Orange has not previously taken advantage of the grant funding and offers for conducting this kind of work, and encouraged the town to proceed to do so. So to get this work completed and seek opportunities for additional housing project funding in the future. So administration is recommending approval of the expenditure of up to $11,000 to undertake the housing business plan as per the proposal by Wallace Insights, Inc. And with the understanding, obviously, that we're going to apply for the grant through Sask Housing and hopefully have most of it, not all that cost covered.
Yeah, I think even if we have to pay for that thing, it's part of the process in order to access this funding. So I think it's quite important that we move on this. So.
The staff have been having discussions with various developers in the province. They're working with realtors outside the area as well, and we're not there yet with any real interest, and there's just so much opportunity elsewhere, and we really have to start pulling all the stops and moving forward in different areas.
Councilor Berry?
I move that council proceeds with option A to approve the expenditure of up to $11,000 to undertake housing business plan as per the May 4th, 2023 proposal by Wallace Insights, Inc.
Seconder?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Bashir.
I have a couple questions before we go to
Are
the.
we going to capacity of that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So one of the questions I have is we have a project team and a planning department right now. Is there a specific reason why we're looking at outsourcing that to an external department, if you will? Is it just there's certain levels of expertise that we don't have in-house that's going to be applied into this $11,000?
Well, I'd certainly say that, staff could do it in-house. I mean, I've been involved in housing assessments in the past, but it primarily comes down to workload.
Okay, so just we don't have the capacity to do everything that we're doing plus that.
It's stretched way too thin.
Okay, no, that's fair. I just wanted to make sure that we're using our departments to their full capacities before we're looking externally. So.
No, it's a good point, and that's certainly why, and also just in terms, we realize that we've been in discussion with Sask Health Authority. We have a new building with lots more staffing requirements. Plus, we've got economic development and other initiatives that may grow the population. We don't have places to put people. So we realize there's a sense of urgency, and we don't want to delay the project by having to stick handle it in-house too much. We certainly can project manage the contractor, but we realize that time is of the essence and we need to move forward.
Okay.
I think sometimes an independent assessment of our needs, I think it probably would hold more weight than us doing it ourselves as well.
Especially if it's grant funded, that's it.
Yeah.
Staff does have the confidence of this company to do the work. They've done this kind of work before and done work for the town, and I've had lengthy discussions with them about our situation, so they understand our needs.
Awesome.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Okay, motion is carried. Okay, that
6.13 Woodlands.
that's
Should we
completes
do
our, we will get, we'll do the, we move woodlands and waterways to the regular agenda. We'll maybe deal with that, and then we'll conclude with 5.1 after. We do that.
After business
That's
is
on
over.
there now. We have a full council with Matt's on there.
Oh, okay, he's there now. Okay, so what do you want to do, Woodlands?
We'll do the woodlands and waterways. We moved that
Okay.
out of Canada.
So you have all probably had the opportunity to look at the minutes, which indicate that there is no manager at the center effective April 28th. Between that time and now, we have had 3 emergency meetings. The center is currently closed. We're unsure when it will open again due to a variety of reasons. Primarily, the main reason would be financial reasons. We were presented with a letter from the provincial government with owed PST in the amount of, well, they're willing to settle for $16,000. It was in the amount of about $17,000. There is GST owed. According to calculations we did, it's about $15,000, but the federal government claims that it's $41,000. There are currently $1,500 in the bank. Between our initial meeting May 1st to May 5th, we found out that the account there had been frozen with no access to funds because the provincial government was putting a hold on any funds, because obviously the provincial government does require that their PST be paid. So with $1,500 in the bank account, due to some emergency action, Air Ranch has loaned Woodland and Waterways, approved last night at their council meeting, $25,000 to help with the PST debt. There are $12,124.18 in uncashed or stale dated checks to artists. The manager has not yet been paid out, the former manager, because there isn't enough to pay the former manager out. There is $1,800 owed to the Receiver General of Canada as well. GST has not seized, sorry, the federal government has not seized or garnished any accounts yet, but it is known that that is coming at some point. Since then, an arrangement has been made with the provincial government to go to regular payments and unseizing the account. A new bookkeeper has been secured. What else can I tell you?
A permanent, do you mind if we ask questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Has a permanent bookkeeper been secured?
Yes, there's a transition period, but
There's a
the
transition
current
period.
bookkeeper is going to help us through this situation
Mhm.
and then help us move forward through the new bookkeeper.
And who is going to be the long-term bookkeeper?
I don't know what's the name of the company. It's a certified bookkeeper. I can
Yeah,
share that name.
A
with you.
chartered accountant.
It's a
She
chartered
doesn't-
Was it
she
like
doesn't
put
live in
out
the
for
community.
No, it was recommended by the current bookkeeper that we have.
That's actually assisted the current bookkeeper in straightening out the
The
books.
situation, yeah. So at the end of the day, in terms of revenue streams, the center has $1,200 in rent that comes from the parks office downstairs. A 15% commission, if you want to call it that, from any product sold at the center. So basically, the situation being faced is a 7 to 8 years in the making perfect storm that has now, I don't know, stormed, I guess would be the right word. So I think we've had many conversations with the other board members, and Ryan and I as reps on that board. We told the other board members that we would come to our council table to request an interest-free loan, repayable loan, with repayments of about $600 to $700 a month, in order to pay off the GST, remain operational, and be able to hire staff. If a loan is not secured, the result of that would be that the center will not open, that we will face legal action as a partner, regardless at some point in time, and we will have to look at some reopening plan. So the amount being requested, yeah,
Has the board sought legal advice as a board?
well, we
have
just-
no money.
We have no money. There's $1,500 left in the bank account.
Right, so if it's an insolvent board, how do you exist?
Well, we exist because it's a partnership between 3 communities, right? And we're just the appointed reps, right? That's how we exist.
Mm-hmm.
There's still like a physical asset. Like at the end of the day, we're either going to face legal financial penalties as a municipality by being a legal representative and partner in the partnership, or we help with a loan.
Right, so this request is to, like, my understanding, because I did attend the Air Range meeting last
Yeah.
night, and I understood what that council discussed, which I
Mhm.
think really kind of didn't hit on the most important questions to be asking at this point and directions that this development corporation should be going in. But one, not seeking legal advice at any point through this process is perhaps, it may be harsh, but negligent. To not reach out to the resources of the three communities that are the,
So-
we've known that this was a problem since August 2022. So it's been nearly a year.
Mhm.
And I think that that's just problematic. Coming with, is there a plan in place?
Okay,
Is
so
there a business plan to be able to present? Has this been developed and consulted with tourism operators and other tourism experts? I guess I'll just leave it there.
there isn't a formal business plan other than to remain operational and try to keep the doors open and have staff to provide information to the public. In terms of other operational pieces, there is a plan being developed by the current board which consists of finding revenue streams, so planning events, hosting events, renting part of the building out, changing the commission parameters from the 15% for the center, 85% for the artist. Those discussions have happened. There isn't funding to pay for a formal legal advice, a business plan, creator, right? So, like, there's $1,500 left in the bank.
Just to answer to Councillor Bashir, I don't know where a lawyer would have been able to give us advice on this. Like, I don't understand the question, because a lawyer is just going to say, well, you're out of money. What do you want?
Well,
To me,
The money was spent on fixing the septic tank. The money was spent on doing a wheelchair lift. The money was spent on dressing up the yard. It was mismanagement by the manager, the board, and
Former boards.
the accountant over 7 years. I want to make that over 7 years, right? Very.
okay.
It's a
we
tough
might be getting
situation.
into just a little bit too much detail right now, but my take on this whole thing is this visitor center was created by the three communities, and it's been in chaos here for several months, and we've been talking about loans, and I think it's time to bring the three community leaders together and make a decision on, and instead of working in a vacuum, making a request to Air Range, making a request here, all separate, let's bring this together and deal with it.
So Air
I
Range
think
has
that will need
already,
to happen.
Air Range has already, like, they've processed the check today, right?
But I think they need to be part of a discussion together. Go ahead.
So-
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. What I'd recommend is, I really see two different issues here, is just from administration's perspective is, you're part of a corporation where you've got an agreement where you fund 1/3 of, obligations, financial obligations and debt. Where I'm hearing somewhere between 35 and 70,000 in debt, depending on what the actual GST amount is. Administration has put an extra $17,000 in the budget as in case this situation was finalized. What I would recommend is two things. One is whether it's a loan or you're just going to pay your 1/3 share, that you do that because you're legally responsible for it either way. The second issue is how do you want to proceed? What is the plan? What is the plan forward? And what kind of strategic plan for operating it? Now, obviously the board is working on that, but that's probably a conversation that we could take either in camera or later on or tonight later in camera. But I see them as two different issues. We can't solve the future of that with this motion, but you do have to recognize you have a legal obligation to the financial status.
Councilman Sharp?
I see them as connected though, because this can't proceed. We are obligated financially to bail it out. and I don't think accusations of like mismanagement are necessary. This was a big mess. We are dealing with it, but we have to recognize that with the bailout needs to come an investment in the supports and resources needed. Like right now, my understanding is the board has 4 empty positions, which what is being done to fill those with the appropriate people to have the resources while you're rebuilding? I don't think it's necessarily fair for the folks that are on this board currently. Some have some great things to bring to the table with a lot of good intentions, but I don't think there's the expertise. Is there a single tourism operator from the community on that board? Is there anybody with experience in tourism? Is there business people on the board that can provide some of that guidance in building a business plan and doing that? And I think that that's going to cost money. You don't have the money for in the corporation to do that. That needs to be part of the ask. I think that that's very important to be asking for at this point to support the movement forward with the repayment of debt, so we don't wind up in a situation where this organization becomes insolvent again.
If you wanted to link the two, the way I would recommend it would be that you would approve, whether it's a loan or a payment, however you want to phrase that, subject to not reopening the doors without a plan in place moving forward. That would be acceptable, because then you're not bleeding any more future costs before you have a plan. And I think that would be a reasonable ask. Report back from the board, perhaps with the plan going forward before you release the fund.
So just to answer Councillor Bashir's questions, we have had those conversations around the table. So the unanimous decision was made to not bring on any new board members until we were out of this mess. We did initially, before all this information came to light, like a week and a half ago, because all of this information came to light within the last week and a half. We did have a plan for an AGM. Actually, it was booked for last night, but we can't have an AGM because what are we going to say? Come to our board, we're in debt, we're dying. Like, no, we can't do that. So we want to move the organization out of this mess, and then we will have an AGM with a reopening strategy with new board members. We have I kind of ID people in the community that can help, especially with the retail side, if that's an area that the board decides to continue on, because we know that with the 15%, that's not cutting it, right? Like, that's not enough.
We've been discussing stuff, and I know we realized where even the accountant pointed out where we went wrong.
Yeah.
In last night's meeting, and like Viviana said, it's hard to ask people to jump on board and fix this. The council that's in there, like the board members, you got a good board members, hardworking board members in there right now trying to resolve the issue. We are doing meeting after meeting, working together.
And they're long meetings.
Yeah, and we're not only we're doing like the manager's expectations. We're working on policy and procedures. We want to make sure this never happens again. Never.
Which is, I think this is what I'm trying to get at. It's not fair for these particular. You guys are being asked to do things that are not necessarily within your scope, within your capabilities. Well,
I feel
I mean,
comfortable
yeah,
in there
me too.
personally.
okay, but there are people, there are consultants that exist that do this for a living.
But there's $1,500 in the bank.
But that's fine. I like as you know,
Yeah.
the community being stakeholders to the organization, we're responsible. So this is where we need to
So Councillor Bashir, are you willing to make a motion to approve a loan in a specific amount, which we will identify shortly, and wages for a consultant to undertake the initiative
Yep.
on top of the loan?
Yep, to provide
In
oversight
kind from the municipality?
with conditions. There's the conditions that I would
It's
have to
gotta
see.
be, it's gotta be shared by the 3 communities. We can't just initiate a motion to undertake more expense without consulting other communities. And that's why I said maybe it's time for the leadership to get together.
But
and
there
talk about what
are
they wanna
leadership representatives on the board, Joe. Ryan and myself are leaders in the community. The Air Orange Council has leaders on that
do.
board.
No, what I'm
The
saying is
band
we
has leaders on
approve
that board.
something here to pay additional, we gotta go to Air Ron and say, okay, you wanna pay a third of it? Does the band wanna
But
pay
Air
it?
Ranch isn't asking for an additional consultant or somebody to create a business plan.
So,
This table is.
Air Orange gave $25,000, and you need at minimum about 35. So we could give
Mhm.
10 and then any additional on top of that be contingent for that.
No, we
Particular
need
thing.
an additional 35.
An additional 35?
Yes, because with that $25,000 loan, that still keeps us in the negatives. It's 35,000 to cover
That
the
we're
tax
asking for,
arrears
right?
and operating funds. So if money gets taken off that 35,000, then the center will not open and will only cover the expenses that exist and the expenses that are coming. Month of May, it will be about another $1,000
And if
just to
the-
cover utilities, right?
Okay, so if
And-
when it comes to the money part,
Yeah.
if the tourism center does not operate as it has been,
Yes.
all it does is have one, maybe we can find a grant funded summer student position.
We've worked
To
on
have-
that.
There's already one in place, but because
Yeah,
the
we
center's
got it
being
in
closed
place.
and nobody to oversee a summer student,
We did the grant
how
already.
how does that even happen, right? It needs some sort of management or governance oversight, like
You,
it
you
cannot
got
just
solid
happen.
board
Right.
members in there right now. You really
I'm
do.
I'm not saying
I'm just assuring
otherwise.
you.
I'm not saying otherwise.
Okay,
I would just say, like, I think these all are potentially great ideas, but again, I think they're secondary because one thing is, you'd have to sit down and really define the issue. Like, we don't know what the scope of a consultant would even look like or what the
Mhm.
problems are they're here to solve. We'd really have to nail all that down. That's gonna be a workshop session all in of itself. I think you all realize that a plan is needed, and that's the important
Mhm.
part, and that
Mhm.
we need to get on.
Yeah. The other option is the center stays closed. We allow government of Saskatchewan, government of Canada to take legal action, seize all assets, and all the 3 communities are out. Right? And there's no more visitor center, which
so.
is
we-
a real possibility, right?
So if the other two communities, like us and the band, approve the 25,000, will that get us out of the whole?
35,000. We're at, I think that La Ronge, because we are a larger community, we do have more citizens. I think that the ask for us.
That whole agreement has always been 1/3, 1/3, 1/3.
I know, but that's for contributions, right? That's for the regular yearly this is a loan. This is a
This is a loan.
special emergency
That
loan
will be paid back.
starting January 2024,
That's
right?
I do
What's the
appreciate-
ask, like, if the
$35,000.
from the town or altogether?
No, from
Just
the
the from
town
the
town.
specifically,
Okay.
with payments starting January 2024, 0% interest, $100 late fee, and the payments would be about
$700.
$700 a month.
Do you bring a sample of the bylaw that went to Orange?
That is.
I don't have one, but I'm sure. Like I can send one to Lyle.
If it's to be a loan, the council can do whichever they please. If it's to be a bailout, then the corporate documents are pretty clear
The-
that it's 1/3.
Yeah,
The board is comfortable with a loan.
a loan. You know what? And if there were the will to do partial loan, partial bailout donation, that would be great too. But the
Oh,
board
definitely.
is comfortable with an
This
actual
is-
loan.
So
Exactly.
I do have a copy of the bylaw that went to Orange. Anybody wants to?
Yeah, I've seen it. And in terms of legal action, I think right now it's important to get through the situation and then go towards legal action because there may be disparity with the government of Canada claiming that $41,000 in GST is owed, which we know is incorrect because of based on when sales started, there's no way it can be 41,000. 15,000 is the calculation the board has come to.
So how much is coming from the band? Like, what's the total amount you're trying to get?
So we have
Airline.
had one rep from the band attend our meetings, but they haven't committed to asking for a loan, providing a loan, right?
So Air Ranch went 25,000. They came to the meeting last night. It was just the band, or sorry, Larange and Air Ranch there,
No,
and
no one else
we
attended.
said we'd ask for the 35.
So the intent is that 60 would be sufficient
Yeah.
for a
Absolutely.
float loan,
Yeah.
basically?
We'll be
And to
back.
remain operational.
Yeah, and to
right?
remain
I just
operational.
wanted to make sure I
Yeah.
understood.
Yeah, so the whole idea would be, because we've revamped the job description, is to hire a person with financial literacy,
Mm.
with the ability to find additional external revenue streams, be that events, the commissions on the arts,
Grant
corporate
writing.
sponsorship, grant writing, right? So whoever is in that position will need to have all those skills, because I guess what we talked about is you need to find funding for the position you hold,
Yeah.
right? We also talked about renting out office space, clearing out the center and renting it out as an event space. Lots of possibilities, but that will fall on whoever takes on the role of management of the facility to find revenue streams, whatever those might be.
Kevin Roberts from the band, he did bring to the table that his cousin down in
Yeah,
Prince
the
Albert-
Beretta organization, is that what they're called?
Yeah, they run a visitor center, and it's a good model. Doing very, very well, making money, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, so there's a
We can
possibility
mimic
there
that.
for an additional $10,000 of income a year or more, maybe more. So, the motion I am putting forward is, I move that the town of La Ronge loan Woodland and Waterways Visitor Center $35,000 as an emergency loan with repayment starting June 2024. January 2024, with a $100 late payment fee and 0% interest.
Sorry, no, like it has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Just what I would request is that you give administration the break during before in camera. I'd like to look at the legislation because in terms of loaning money,
Okay,
is a different ball of wax than granting someone money, and there may be legislative requirements for that process. But I want to double check before council moves on this,
Okay.
if that would be
Okay.
acceptable.
would you like me to email you the Ronge draft?
No.
No? Okay. Okay,
Okay, we'll go back to plan A and we'll move it back into in camera.
Like the motion will be out of camera, but I want
Come out of
to.
in camera and make a
Okay.
motion on it.
Just a point of order, I guess, on the motion. Is there any opposition from the board members that represent us on the Woodlands and Waterways to tabling this to the next meeting? And if there is an option for us to have administration draft something that will fit the legislation, that will give us the 2 weeks to be able to prepare for that?
I don't know if that can be afforded, like the center will remain closed until, I guess is the only thing that will happen. That's sort of the.
So as
the
long as
result
we're
of that.
okay with a lack
Yeah.
of service for the next 2 weeks
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get our ducks in a row.
yeah,
Let's
that would be
just,
fine.
push it into in camera and give administration a chance to maybe, and if they can't come up with the information, then we go postpone it to that point.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay?
And I guess the other potential consequence would be, since the government of Canada is no longer on strike, if they decide to pursue the GST owed immediately and seize a bank account
We
again,
got enough to worry about.
right? That's the $25,000 that Orange has put in also gone.
We got companies that owe
Because they
millions
believe
of dollars.
we owe them 41,000.
Sure, and
Right.
but they're not gonna like walk and steal your keys tomorrow for the visitor center.
well, the provincial government froze our.
Oh, yeah,
we
they're
just
gonna
got
freeze
it
your
on.
accounts
We
and
just
people
got it
won't
on
pay,
frozen
but-
actually, which we'd appreciate keeping unfrozen.
Right, and then that's fair. I understand that.
Mhm,
I don't
mhm.
know.
And I guess I'd like to clarify for the general public,
think he's on route.
Councillor Vetri and I are appointed by this council as board members. So our role is to oversee, I guess, the interests of our municipality. So I don't want to see our municipality be faced with legal action over a debt owed through a partnership.
I guess we haven't really had a clear answer what the band's position is, yet either, so I mean, there's two communities that haven't committed at this point.
Well,
Aaron.
Aaronj did.
No, I said there's two
Between
that haven't.
ourselves and yeah, but we can't force a partner to participate in a loan. Like we can't say you have to give us a loan, right?
And I think even
But
splitting
you're
up the
telling
loan.
us we do.
Well, no, I
No,
think
I'm not telling you.
We're
But
asking.
we're asking, and we're appointed members, so we're bringing what's needed to the table. Like this council has the right to totally deny everything and say, no, we're not doing it.
And-
So,
and-
Well, I don't think I'm there, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying that.
Yeah.
Point of order, I think we're kind of as far as we can get on this one right now until
Yes.
we can hear back from administration. Why don't we
Yeah.
move on to the next item and
That's what I said, we'll move it into in camera and we'll move on to, we said that we would ensure that before we dealt with 5.1, we would have all the councillors connected. We can see if
Don't know.
that, I forgot my phone, see, what is the next number and see these.
I have an answer for you on this matter. A municipality may only lend money to one of its controlled corporations to a municipal development corporation established if such loan is authorized by bylaw. So there is a process to follow for this matter, so we will have to defer this to the next meeting.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to table item 6.13 to the May
23rd.
23rd meeting.
Seconder?
I'll second.
2 seconders. All in favor of the motion?
Yeah,
Okay,
well, it's
motion
fire,
carried.
has to, you have to follow legislation, right?
I guess here on, you'll have to back and find the follow the proper process.
They did,
They did.
they got
That's
that
the
bylaw.
We had a bylaw drafted.
If you wish, you may direct administration to prepare a loan bylaw in the amount of 35,000, that would be a motion that would be acceptable.
Okay, I'd like to make that motion, that administration prepare a bylaw, for $35,000 to be loaned to
Yeah.
Woodlands and Waterways
I'll
Visitor
second.
Center.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so we'll do that.
5.1
Mhm.
is
Just
Matt?
take a short recess and we'll see if he's on. He's tracking back,
Yeah,
his
he's in the
wife
dead
has some surgery
zones.
done.
Matt is traveling right now.
Yeah.
He was on a couple of times and then
Yeah.
lost in there.
Popped up, maybe lost cell service.
You wanna take a 5-minute recess and we'll just see if we can hook up?
I'm gonna go out and smoke if we are.
Okay, you can do that.
Yeah.
We could also call him on cell